Over the last 10 years, we've slowly been swapping out conventional, bottled skincare products for all natural and homemade ones. For us, it started with making shampoo bars and a tallow balm that we use as an all-purpose moisturizer. And then we started to add other things like magnesium lotion, deodorant, and sunscreen. This past year, my goal was to swap out our bottled dish soap with the homemade version. So I've been working on the recipe for the last several months, and I am so excited about how it turned out. And as a family that doesn't have a dishwasher, having good dish soap is very important. A lot of my early work experiences were in restaurants and food service type jobs, so I had a lot of time washing dishes with very harsh, chemical-filled dish soap that would always leave my hands breaking out in rashes. My skin tends to be fairly sensitive, so I wanted to make a bar that both worked really well to clean and to sanitize, but that wasn't so harsh and left my hands feeling good after I washed dishes. Conventional dish soaps are filled with many toxic ingredients like surfactants and fragrances, and it's pretty common for there to be soap residue that can be left on your seemingly washed and clean dishes, and so you definitely don't want to be ingesting those toxic chemicals. For our homemade version, instead of using a traditional liquid dish soap, we are actually making a dish soap bar. So it took a little getting used to at first, but now I love it. And the best part is these soap bars are filled with natural and safe ingredients, and there's no plastic packaging, so they're completely zero waste. And if you've never made soap before, it can sound really, really intimidating, but I promise it's actually a very doable and easy process. Hey guys, can you come help put away dishes? Making dish soap bars is just like making any other soap bar. But for this recipe specifically, since it's a dish soap, I just played with the type of oils that we were using to make it more cleansing than your standard body soap, and also that it would be hard enough that it would work well and stand up to daily dishwashing. The oils that I used in this recipe are primarily coconut oil with a small amount of tallow and castor oil. The first thing that you want to do is gather your ingredients and measure your oils. So you are measuring the oils by weight, not fluid ounces, by weight ounces. So I'll link the full printable recipe below, but I'm going to measure out 1 ounce of tallow, 1 ounce of castor oil, and 25 ounces of coconut oil, or 1 pound 9 ounces if that's how your scale reads. Castor oil is really lovely to add in small amounts to soaps because it is extremely conditioning, meaning that it helps to retain moisture, or kind of what gives skin that soft, supple, and soothing feeling. So we like to find organic castor oil in dark glass bottles to make sure that it's not rancid. Tallow is my go-to in skincare products because it's filled with so many beneficial vitamins and minerals. And it's also highly compatible with skin. In this recipe, it helps add hardness to the bars and also longevity to help those soap bars last over multiple uses and getting wet constantly. We render tallow ourselves from beef fat, and I have another video that I can link of exactly how to do that using the wet method to remove any beefy odors from your tallow. In the post that I'll link below too with the printable recipe, it'll also have an alternative recipe in there that omits tallow if you prefer to make a dish soap bar that just has coconut oil and castor oil in it. Coconut oil is great because it is extremely cleansing, and it also adds a lot of hardness to your soap. But on its own, coconut oil can be fairly harsh and dry out skin. So I also wanted to add a small amount of tallow and castor oil to offset some of that harshness. We like to buy 5-gallon buckets of coconut oil from Azure Standard and have been really impressed with the quality and price of buying their oil in bulk. So I'd highly recommend, if you're gonna be soap making or using coconut oil in bulk, getting it from there. after measuring out your oils, you're gonna melt them on the stove. And then once everything is melted, you wanna take it off the stove and let the oils cool. While those oils are cooling, I'm gonna measure out the water and the lye. And it's best to avoid using tap water in soap making. We use our filtered water. We have a Berkey that we use Pro 1 filters in, and that's what we use, and it's always worked fine. Many would say that distilled water is ideal, and this is because minerals in the water could react with lye and lead to a poorer quality soap or some inconsistencies in the soap. So lye is also known as caustic soda or sodium hydroxide, and it's really powerful stuff. So you definitely want to be careful when you're handling lye. So this is where I'm going to suit up. I put on long sleeves, gloves, and safety glasses. For this recipe, I'm going to measure out 10.3 ounces of water and 4.9 ounces of lye. When lye is added to water, it gets extremely hot. So we like to mix it in stainless steel and use stainless steel spoons as well. The lye solution could deteriorate wood spoons, melt plastic, or even crack glass. And when you're mixing the lye solution, you want to make sure you're doing this in a really well-ventilated area because of that reaction that occurs. So we prefer to do this outside, but if the weather doesn't allow for that, you could at least make sure you're cracking the windows so that you have plenty of ventilation. When you make your lye solution, you always want to add lye to your water and not the other way around. I'm going to slowly add the lye to the water and stir it until it goes from cloudy to clear. And then when it gets to that clear point, you want to let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes to cool down. A question that we get all the time is if lye is so dangerous where it chews up wood or breaks glass, why in the world would we be adding it to soap bars? And that's a great question. And it's because that soap making involves this really cool chemical reaction called saponification. And so what happens is when the lye solution is mixed with the oils, it totally changes the chemical properties of the lye or the sodium hydroxide. And in that process of them mixing and then being cured, it causes that caustic lye to become neutralized. And so after a few weeks of curing, it's perfectly safe to put on your skin. After the oils have cooled down to around 100 degrees Fahrenheit and the lye solution has had a chance to cool, you're going to slowly pour the lye water into the oils. And we have found that an immersion blender works best to blend the solution together. One big mistake I've made several times is over mixing. So you want to mix the lye solution in the oils until what's called trace in soap making, or basically when the emulsion has happened between the water and the oils where they're mixed together and they won't separate. But if you overmix, it can cause the bars to get too thick and kind of crumbly. And if you do this, it's okay. The bars will still be perfectly fine. It's just that the mixture can be a little too thick and hard to pour, and it's not going to produce soap bars that are quite as pretty. My process here is to use the immersion blender to mix for several seconds. And this isn't minutes, this is maybe like 10 to 15 to 20 seconds until it looks creamy or emulsified, like it's gone from water and oil to a mixed together consistency. And then I'm gonna add essential oils if I'm using them. So for dish soap bars, I really like to add citrusy essential oils like a lemon or an orange. They're delightful. They smell good, they're refreshing, but they're also antibacterial and antiviral. Then I mix the mixture again for just a few more seconds and they're ready to pour into your soap molds. Another term you often hear in soap making is the superfat. So the superfat is the percentage of oils that have not been saponified or turned into soap and are actually just free floating in the bar. So many soap bars that you'd use for your skin have a superfat of between 5% and 15% because having some superfat can be a really good thing. It helps to add some moisture and luxuriousness to that soap bar. So if there's a 0% superfat, it means all of the oil has been saponified with the lye and there isn't any extra to create that moisturizing in the skin. So some amount of superfat is great for making body soap, but in the case of making dish soap bars, I specifically created this recipe with 0% superfat so that there isn't any extra oil, which could then create an oily residue on dishes that I didn't want. I recently picked up these sunflower soap molds, which are just so fun. And so this dish soap recipe makes 12 of these size bars, and they are also perfect for giving away as gifts too. But you can use a standard soap bar or really any other mold that you'd like. So after you pour your soap into the mold, you're gonna leave it in there for 24 hours. And then the next day, you wanna remove the soap from the mold. So if you're using a standard soap bar mold, now would be the time the next day, 24 hours after you made the soap initially, that's when you want to slice that soap into bars. I like to leave our soap on a cooling rack in a dark, cool place to cure. So you let them cure for 4 weeks, and this is to make sure that the lye has had a chance to completely neutralize and that the bars are going to be hard enough so that they are ready to be used. We usually go through a dish soap bar every couple of weeks or maybe once a month, so one batch of these is going to last you for quite a while, and you can store them just fine for several months. It's ideal to have designated utensils and equipment that you use solely for soap making because of the potential of having activated lye. You definitely don't want to get that on your skin or in anything that you could be consuming. So that's all you need to make your own dish soap bars at home, eliminate the plastic bottle and all the unnecessary chemicals. So now that we have a dish soap recipe that we love, the next thing on my list to try is making our own laundry detergent. So if you have a recipe that works well, that you love, send it my way. I'd love to hear your ideas.